So, I want you to close your eyes for a second.
Okay.
Seriously, just for a moment. I want you to imagine you are standing right in the middle of the Arabian desert.
Right.
It's the 7th century. The heat is just blistering. Resources are incredibly scarce. And everything, literally everything, is tribal.
Yeah, completely tribal.
Survival out there isn't about being this, rugged individual. It is strictly a numbers game. You need to know instantly and without a shadow of doubt who is on your team and who is an outsider.
Who's going to defend the camp and who might actually be a threat.
Exactly.
And in that specific environment,
Yeah.
spirituality, as we think of it today,
Like burning sage or whatever.
like burning sage, finding your inner truth, meditating on a yoga mat, that's a luxury.
Yeah.
That simply does not exist. What you need is cohesion. You need a head count.
A head count. I love that way of framing it. And
Yeah.
this is really where I think we get the modern understanding of prayer, of Salah, completely wrong.
Completely backward, honestly.
We look at it through this very soft 21st century lens of personal connection with the divine. But when you actually strip away all that modern branding and look at the mechanism itself, it looks a lot less like a yoga session and a whole lot more like a loyalty oath.
It is a roll call.
Yeah.
That is really the most historically and functionally accurate way to describe it.
Right.
You really have to look at the specific language used to establish this ritual, because we aren't dealing with suggestions here. Think about Surah 4.103. It defines the prayer using a very precise phrase, kitaban makwata.
Kitaban makweta. Let's unpack that, because that does not sound like, meditate when you feel the vibes.
Not even close.
Yeah.
So kitaban comes from the root for book or written, which strongly implies a contract, a decree, or a strict law.
Okay.
And makweta means time-bound or fixed.
Got it.
So if we're being intellectually honest with the translation here, it's not simply a time for prayer. It translates to a fixed written obligation. It operates exactly like a contract of submission.
You are punching the clock.
You are punching the clock.
It's basically the difference between calling your mom because you miss her and want to chat, and checking in with a parole officer at a specific time because it is literally the law.
Yes.
One is relational and the other is entirely structural.
Precisely. And this is the massive disconnect we see everywhere today. You have millions of people trying to retrofit this very rigid 7th century tribal loyalty mechanism into a modern wellness box.
Yeah, they want it to be about mental health.
Or spiritual grounding, yeah. But the logic of the system is screaming, this is a contract. It wasn't designed to help you find yourself.
Right.
It was designed to prove you are part of the group, the ummah, and definitively not one of them.
And that distinction between the ummah and the outsider really sets the stage for what I want to dig into today.
Let's do it.
We are going to peel back this modern branding. We're going to look at the good person paradox, this whole idea that you can be a good person without the ritual.
Which is huge.
Right. And we'll look at the so-called health benefits people claim. And honestly, we need to look at the threats, because the language used for missing this appointment is terrifying.
It's the language of criminal negligence.
It really is. So let's start with that good person idea, because I think everyone listening knows this archetype. We usually call it the cultural Muslim.
Sure, yeah.
You know the type. Maybe she doesn't wear the hijab.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she dances at mixed weddings, or she gossips a little bit over tea. But fundamentally, she deeply believes she is a good person.
Right.
She gives to charity. She's kind to her neighbors. She's honest at work. And the underlying assumption is always, God knows my heart. I'm a good person, so I'm safe.
That is the ultimate modern humanist assumption.
Yeah.
It's this idea that morality is defined strictly by how you treat other people.
Yeah.
But if you look at the internal logic of the theology, strictly at the Quranic framework, that intuition is entirely wrong.
It's wrong, but I mean, surely saving a life or feeding the poor has to have value, right?
In the Islamic framework, social goodness is not an independent variable. You cannot just be good in a vacuum.
Okay.
Morality is inextricably tethered to ritual submission. If you remove the submission, the entire moral structure collapses.
So, okay, let's make this concrete. Are you saying a philanthropist who, say, saves 1,000 lives but sleeps through the dawn prayer forger is in trouble?
According to the framework, absolutely. Yes.
Wow.
There is a fascinating and honestly chilling dialogue in Surah 74, Al-Mudathir. It depicts this conversation between the people of paradise and the people in hell. Specifically, a level of hell called Sakar.
Sakar, okay, is that just like a generic fire?
No, it's very specific. It's described as a scorching heat that literally leaves nothing behind.
Jesus.
So the people in paradise look down and ask the people in the fire, what led you into Sakar? Now just think about what a modern person would expect the answer to be.
I was a murderer.
Right.
I stole from orphans. I was a dictator. The big moral crimes.
Exactly, the stuff that actively hurts other people.
Yeah.
But look at Surah 74.43. The very first reason they give the absolute top of the list is, we were not of those who prayed.
That's the first thing. So before they mention any harm done to others, they confess the failure of the ritual.
Yes, it creates a definitive hierarchy. Ritual allegiance mathematically outweighs moral behavior.
Wow.
You could be the nicest person in the entire tribe, but if you don't show up for the loyalty oath, you are a traitor, and traitors go to Sakar.
That just totally shatters the God knows my heart defense, because the heart isn't the metric, the knee hitting the floor is the metric.
Exactly. And it actually goes further than that. Think about Surah 107 on my own. This is a very short chapter. Kids usually memorize it early on.
Yeah.
But the implications are incredibly heavy. It says, so woe to those who pray.
Wait, woe to those who do pray. That sounds completely backward.
Right, but it continues woe to those who pray, but who are heedless of their prayer.
Heedless, meaning what? Distracted, doing it just to show off.
Distracted, doing it for show, delaying it, or just not taking the mechanical precision of it seriously.
Okay.
The text literally promises wail. And wail isn't just a generic woe. In traditional exegesis, it's often described as a specific valley in hell filled with pus and blood.
Oh, wow.
And that is promised to people who are actively praying, but just doing a bad job of it.
So if the guy who prays sloppily gets the Valley of Woe, what happens to the cultural Muslim who just skips it entirely to go to a wedding?
Exactly. That is the good person paradox in a nutshell. The text clearly dictates that even a flawed ritual is a spiritual emergency. Abandoning it entirely, that's not even a conversation.
It's just a given.
It completely invalidates the secular concept of goodness. In this worldview, your goodness is nullified by your failure to submit. It's treated as an act of profound arrogance.
It's like being this amazing employee who does great work but absolutely refuses to sign the employment contract.
Right.
Technically, you don't work there.
And eventually, security is going to escort you out of the building, or in this case, into Sakar.
Okay, so that is the theological reality. It is harsh, it is highly binary, but modern people really don't like dealing with that harshness.
They hate it.
So what do? We rebrand. We see this massive cottage industry of apologetics trying to sell Salah not as a rigid submission contract, but as a literal health hack.
Oh, the divine yoga argument. I absolutely love this one. It is my favorite logical fallacy.
You hear it all the time. Oh, the bending and prostrating increases blood flow to the brain. It's good for your joints. It's basically an ancient form of Pilates.
It is such a desperate attempt to make a strict 7th century command palatable to a very science-oriented modern audience.
Yeah.
But if you actually analyze it physically, it is laughable.
Walk me through that. How so?
Efficiency, just pure efficiency. If the goal of the creator was to ensure the physical cardiovascular health of the believers, Salah is a terribly inefficient workout.
I mean, it is just 5 sets of low-intensity movement spread out over 24 hours.
It's exactly. A brisk 20-minute walk around the block provides significantly more cardiovascular and musculoskeletal benefit than the few minutes spent in prayer.
But surely some movement is better than no movement, right?
Sure, but let's look at the actual cost. And this is the glaring issue that the health apologists constantly ignore: the sleep problem.
Fajr, the dawn prayer.
Fajr. Depending on the season and your latitude, you are mandated to wake up at 4 a.m. or 5:00 a.m. You are deliberately, systematically interrupting your sleep cycle.
Every single day.
Every day. And we know, objectively from modern science, that disrupting REM sleep, that deep restorative dreaming stage, is highly detrimental.
It ruins cognitive function.
Cognitive function, emotional regulation, long-term physical health. Chronic sleep interruption is heavily linked to depression, heart disease, obesity.
So a God who is primarily concerned with your biology would never mandate daily sleep deprivation.
Precisely. Wow. If this was truly a health tip, the command would logically be, get 8 solid hours of sleep and stretch when you wake up. But the command is, wake up while it's pitch dark and prostrate. The core purpose isn't circulation. The purpose is subjugation.
Subjugation.
It's about proving that your unquestioning obedience to the command is fundamentally stronger than your basic biological need for rest.
That is such a powerful refutation. It isn't a workout. It is a literal test of will.
Yes.
But okay, what about the mental aspect? Because the other big rebrand we see is mindfulness.
Right.
You hear people say, I don't need to meditate, I have Salah. It's my 5 daily mental health breaks to just center myself in a chaotic world.
This one is actually even more insidious, I think.
Yeah.
Because it completely hijacks the language of modern psychology to describe something that is functionally the exact opposite of mindfulness.
Explain that, because on the surface, stopping your day to focus on God sounds a lot like mindfulness.
It sounds like it, sure. But mindfulness, in a clinical or therapeutic sense, is all about non-judgmental awareness.
Right.
It's about flow. It's about simply accepting thoughts as they come and letting them pass.
No pressure.
Zero pressure. Salah, on the other hand, is a high-stakes performance.
High stakes in what way?
Think about the core concept of batil. Batil translates to invalid or void.
Okay.
If you miss a single verse, if you wash an arm incorrectly during wudu, if you happen to break wind, your prayer is batil. It does not count.
It's completely void of...
Void it. You have to start over and do it again.
Right, so it is strictly pass-fail.
Exactly. Mindfulness inherently doesn't have a fail state. You literally cannot fail at meditation.
Yeah, that's true.
But you can absolutely fail at Salah.
Mm.
This framework doesn't breed inner peace. It breeds scrupulosity.
That's like religious OCD, right?
Yes. It's a form of religious OCD where you are constantly, obsessively agonizing. Did I pronounce that syllable right?
Right.
Was my elbow at the exact right angle during prostration? Did I accidentally break my wudu? That is pure performance anxiety. It's not a mental health break.
Man, I hadn't really thought about it that way. If you're constantly terrified of being invalidated, you aren't relaxing, you are auditioning.
You are auditioning for your life. And then you have to add the linguistic barrier on top of all that.
Oh, the Arabic.
Right. For the vast majority of Muslims globally, Indonesians, Pakistanis, Americans, Arabic is not their native language.
So they're just reciting phonetics.
You are reciting memorized sounds. Unless you are highly fluent in classical Arabic, you aren't actually engaging with the meaning of the words in real time.
You're just doing it from muscle memory.
You are performing a rote incantation.
And if your mind wanders, which of course it naturally does when you're just repeating sounds you don't even understand, you feel intense guilt.
Exactly. Because remember, the text explicitly calls you heedless for that. So instead of a mental reset, you get trapped in a guilt cycle.
A guilt cycle.
You feel bad for not focusing, you feel anxious about doing the mechanics right, and on top of it all, you feel exhausted because you woke up at 4 a.m.
Calling that system good for mental health is practically a biological absurdity.
It really is.
It truly is a script of fear when you actually look at the consequences, and I want to pivot to that right now.
Let's do it.
Because if it's not actually for physical health, and it's definitely not for mindfulness, the only motivation left on the table is the stick.
Yes.
And when you look at the terminology used for those who opt out, it is not gentle at all.
The vocabulary is incredibly precise and uncompromising.
Mm.
We already mentioned wail, that valley of woe for the sloppy prayer.
Yeah.
But there are several others.
Like what else? Blank it down.
Well, we talked about sakar.
The hellfire.
Right. The specific name for hellfire entirely reserved for the non-praying. It isn't a general punishment. It is the specific judicial punishment for breach of contract.
It's the punishment for the deserters.
Yes. And then there is Gaia.
Gaia.
Gaia. This comes up explicitly in Surah 19.59. It talks about the generations who came after the prophets, and it says they neglected prayer and pursued desires.
And the direct result is Gaia.
Yes. Gaia translates to destruction, or effectively a pit in hell. But the really fascinating part here is the binary mechanism it sets up. The logic of that verse establishes a direct, unavoidable cause and effect. If you neglect the prayer, you will automatically pursue desires. Shahwat.
So it strongly implies there is absolutely no middle ground. You are either actively praying or you are mindlessly chasing your lusts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is often called the dam theory. The ritual essentially acts as a massive concrete dam against human desire. If you remove that dam, the water of desire just floods everything.
Which perfectly explains why the text is so unbelievably harsh on the cultural Muslim we talked about earlier.
Right.
Because to the modern mind, she's just out there enjoying her life, dancing, socializing, being normal. But to the strict theological mind, she hasn't just skipped a habit. She has broken the dam.
She has. She is actively pursuing desires.
And the punishment for that isn't just a stern talking to.
No, it's Gaia. Destruction. The primary psychological mechanism operating here is pure fear. It is not the language of a missed opportunity like, oh, you skipped the gym today, try again tomorrow.
Right.
It is the language of criminal negligence. You have abandoned your post.
It really just strips away the whole cozy feeling of modern religion, doesn't it? We desperately want it to be this warm blanket, but it's actually a high-voltage fence.
It is a fence.
Yeah.
And you have to remember, it's a fence explicitly built in the 7th century to keep a vulnerable tribe together.
Mhm.
If you stepped outside the fence back then, you died.
Wow.
The daily ritual was the constant, visible proof that you were still inside the fence.
So we've really gone from this very modern, sanitized idea of spiritual health all the way back to the raw, historical reality of a loyalty oath.
Yeah, full circle.
We've seen that just being good isn't nearly enough in this framework. We've seen that the physical and mental health benefits are largely modern myths designed to sell the ritual to secular people.
Completely.
And we've seen that the consequences for stepping out of line are terrifyingly specific.
It definitely leaves the modern listener in a really tough spot.
It does. And honestly, I want to leave you in that spot. I want to pose some questions that absolutely do not have easy, comforting answers. Because if you were sitting across from a modern apologist, or maybe just having coffee with that cultural Muslim friend who is quietly struggling with this whole thing, what are the questions that actually force them to confront this reality?
I actually have 5 specific questions for this exact scenario.
Okay, let's hear them.
These are no-exit questions. They're totally designed to shut down the modern fluff and force a direct confrontation with the text's rigidity.
Hit me. Let's go through them. Question number 1.
Okay, the morality question. If a philanthropist goes to hell specifically for missing Fajr, is God's morality tribal or universal?
Oof, that is the big one right there. Is it fundamentally about allegiance or is it about virtue?
Exactly, because a universal God cares about virtue. A tribal God cares about allegiance. And the text consistently points to the latter.
Okay, question 2. Let's keep it moving.
The biological question. If the Creator specifically designed the human need for REM sleep, why does the ritual mandate interrupting it, fully knowing the damage it causes to human health?
Right, you really can't have it both ways. You can't claim God perfectly designed your body and then handed you an instruction manual that slowly destroys it.
Exactly. Question 3 is the anxiety question.
Okay.
Does a ritual that is entirely invalidated batil by a single minor mistake foster inner peace? Or does it inevitably breed scrupulosity and performance anxiety?
Yeah. Basically, is the prayer mat a sanctuary or is it a pop quiz?
Right. Question 4, the language question. Is reciting words you literally do not understand a genuine form of meditation? Or is it simply a demonstration of blind obedience through rote incantation?
Am I actually connecting with the divine or am I just complying with management?
Complying with management, perfectly put. And finally, question 5, the ultimate purpose.
Let's hear it.
Is Salah actually designed to make you a better human being? Or is it simply a repetitive mechanical mechanism to ensure you never, ever forget your status as a subject?
Man, that is the clincher. Are you growing or are you just bowing?
The modern mind desperately wants to believe it's for personal growth. But the text explicitly, repeatedly says it is strictly for submission.
And I think that is exactly where we have to land today. We can try to dress it up, we can try to modernize it. We can talk about Pilates and yoga and mindfulness all we want. But at the very end of the day, the system remains kitaban makwara,
A fixed written obligation.
a contract. And the thing about contracts is they really don't care how you feel about them. They just demand to be fulfilled.
Correct.
Something to really chew on the next time you hear someone explaining the amazing health benefits of waking up at 4 a.m. in the dark.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today. We'll see you on the next one.